So why we really started private practice and were we escaping anything by starting private practice?
Yeah. Okay. And I didn't need to think much about this when you came up with the question. I think there's some other reasons that maybe I'll get to, but such a the big one is, and I kind of sometimes joke about this with my clients, is that I hate being managed. So I think I was escaping from a hierarchical place of working, um,
Mm.
because I've just had so many jobs, and there's definitely the. Let me be clear. Big part of this is my problem. Um, I've been in so many jobs where my way of thinking does not work with my manager's way of thinking, and we've ended up butting heads. Um, or butting heads makes it sound like something actually happened from it. More often than not, it'd be me kind of like fearing away or just getting put back in my box, getting put in my place because I had no power over these people that were managing me. So there was always like it might be a stubbornness, it might be a neurodivergence, but if someone says to me, like a manager, I need you to do this, and they can't tell me why, I don't want to do it. And you can take what you want from that, and sure, maybe it's something that I could have worked on. But if something doesn't make sense organizationally, you know what I'm like with admin and business. If there's an easier way to do something, I will find it. Um, and I just had so many times where like, okay, we need to do this, or can you do that? And I'll be like, oh, could we do it this way? And then I'll just get shot down every time. So I think with private practice, I was like, I don't need to be managed ever again if I'm working for myself. Um, Now I can have loads of random ideas and do them and watch a lot of them crash and burn, but also see a lot of them work really well. Um,
Mm.
and not have to worry about, is there going to be an argument, or is there going to need to be a meeting with HR, or um, you know, just that frustrating stuff where someone else is saying you should have done it this way, yet they can't explain why I would have to do it a certain way.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I've just needed to be independent. I think I've always have been, but when it comes down to working, it became very clear for my relatively short career before therapy of I can't have this hierarchical structure. And if I was to go back into a job, this is really controlling. But I think I'd need to be in management myself, and encourage other people to be creative. Because yeah, I can't. I spent too long being pushed in a box, and so I'm quite happy and proud to be escaping from that.
Yeah. It's interesting because I can hear the therapist in you taking accountability
Yeah.
for your stuff. However, I think every manager is different,
Mm.
but I think
Mm.
good management is about collaborating with the people that you manage and
Yeah.
empowering them to feel like they can also make suggestions. So, why should it be a point of contention if
Mm.
your manager is saying, "Hey, I want you to do this," and then you're given a suggestion saying, "Well, how about we do it this way?" And now it's this. Now it turns into
Yeah.
conflict.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's, but I know that it's quite a typical example.
Yeah.
And I think managers tend to get into management for
Mm.
their own reasons too.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of managers who maybe don't have the therapeutic awareness will get into a management position without really understanding what has drawn them into a potentially like hierarchical position where they can now control things. So yeah, that's frustrating
Yeah.
that that was your experience.
And do you know what? You're right in that if I take my therapist hat on, sometimes it's actually about why were you such a bitch?
Like, someone
why
has
were you
to
such
say it. Like,
why were you such a
what
dickhead to me? Like, why couldn't you just listen to my other idea, even if it hadn't
it's
gone
not
right?
making sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why does this keep on happening? It's like, oh, why does everyone in the company keep on leaving? Maybe we should do something about it. No? Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, yeah. Let's just carry on having this turnover rate, whatever. Or
Yeah.
shut up. And
Yeah.
that's exhausting when you've got to be like, yeah, okay, I've tried and I'll stop. So yeah, that's the reality of it. You take the therapy hat off, it's like, God, if you're going to be a dickhead, I'm not going to work for you anymore. And
Yeah.
then it got to the point where I was like, oh, I can work for myself. Yeah. What about you? What do you think? What was the real one of the real reasons of starting private?
Yeah. I think in a very similar way, there's like a kind of similar essence to what you were saying, but I was working in the public sector, so it wasn't private. So working in the public sector, like local authorities and the NHS.
Yeah.
Mm. Whilst I love the NHS, I think we need the NHS. As a therapist, or someone who's working therapeutically, it can be really difficult because trying to carve out a protected space for yourself and your work without feeling like this hierarchical structure where you don't have a voice and your craft isn't respected because it might not be as evidence based as some of the other practitioners, or I guess the NHS are under huge amounts of pressure to get through waiting lists. And when you're doing something that is based on relational work, that doesn't necessarily fit what the NHS needs. It needs something that can get people through and like almost like fix people quite quickly. And that's not how we work. So I think that part was quite difficult for me. Um, and so I was coming against that a lot, quite confused about what it was I was supposed to be doing. Didn't feel like it was really aligning with me or my values. And so there was a part of me that was escaping that 100%. And just the politics, politics are still prevalent in the public sector and the NHS, just the same as private work. And it's not something that I enjoyed. I don't feel like there was much accountability, uh, the whistleblowing, and then nothing's done. The people at the top stay at the top. They're really well
Yeah.
protected. Why am I here?
Mm.
Um, and so for me, there was an opportunity for me to do something
Mm.
and not have to be involved in any of that.
Mm. Yeah.
And private practice was the answer for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I haven't looked back since.
Mm. Even though it can be really hard. Um,
Yes.
as a job to run your own private practice. But
Yeah.
there's that such a relief from the politics side of it. Sometimes I feel like I miss the gossip, but that's what it was. It was either gossip or drama, and it takes
Yeah.
me
Well,
some.
it's lonely here, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
lonely here. I miss my team too.
yeah.
So even though
Mm,
politics,
mm,
you do miss
yeah,
that group element of like
yeah.
getting together and speaking about the shit, like trauma bonding, speaking about everyone's upsets, and you don't get to do that as a private like a private practice practitioner.
Yeah, it's like the kettle talk, when you'd go for get a drink or something, or you pop into the
Mm,
kitchen. There's just a random people. That's something that I do
yeah,
miss. Um,
yeah.
I'm thinking as well, though, like another reason, but I didn't know it was a reason until I was working, and I don't think being assigned clients works for me. And I
Okay.
learned that for sure, even when I was getting paid for it. And to be fair, it was an organization where it was self-employed work. So we were technically our own bosses, but there was still a management system and all of that. But yeah, when I'm handed clients to work with, um, there's a chance that the relationship is just really, really hard to develop because they've not picked me. They've been encouraged to see me because I happen to be working at similar time. There was some sort of vetting, wasn't there? But it was still, we've only got Tom available. And so you're ending up working with people where the therapeutic alliance just is like a stalling car all of the time. Whereas in private practice, people are looking for your profile, they're looking through the information you've got about you, and they're picking if you want to work with them, and you're picking if you want to work with them as well in terms of can I offer you what you need.
Mhm.
You get that with private practice, where if you're an agency um, or an organization and you're just getting them, it was some most exhausting work I've ever done has been because this is the person you're working with and deal with it.
Yeah. And that can really affect your self-esteem as a
Yeah.
therapist too.
Mm. Gosh,
I remember there were so many times working
yeah.
where I left feeling like shit,
Yeah. Yeah.
thinking, oh my goodness, like I am the shittest
Yeah.
therapist
Yeah.
in the entire world. When I look back in hindsight, I think potentially I could have done better.
Yeah.
Um, However, I think there was some poor client
Mm.
matching. Um, and I think that impacts a lot of therapists' confidence,
Mm.
uh, especially in placement when
Yeah.
they're training and they don't have any choice or there's no agency. And also, they feel scared to speak up in placement because they know they need their hours,
Yeah.
but they're working with clients where the agency might have said, oh no, we have hand selected you because we think that you're best to work with this client. But sometimes there are
Yeah.
other factors involved and there's no one else that they can work with.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, and some therapists are having a really hard time with that.
Yeah. And even then, there was still the rules of the organization, um, that just again felt like that management of this is who you have to work with, this is what you have to do. I don't know if you had the same role, but I remember I think it was that you can't have hot drinks in the room. I think someone had spilled something at some point.
Yeah.
You couldn't have hot drinks in the room, but I was working with someone where there was a lot of transference going on in terms of like tiredness. So I left the session feeling
Mm.
really tired. We were doing good work, but it was quite exhausting. And so before that session, in my 10-minute gap, I'd be running into the staff room, making coffee on that coffee machine, which took ages, filling up with cold water, downing the coffee, trying to get my notes. When now, like in situations like that, I have a coffee during the session and the client has a coffee or a cup of tea or something. But before, I was like a mess before the session even started and then tired straight away anyway, because that was what was playing out in the work. Um,
Yeah.
and so even just the ability to go, oh, I want to start drinking drinks while I'm having a session. Okay, why not? That freedom is so nice.
I think that's it. It's the
Mhm.
freedom
Mm,
to choose um, how you want to set up your private practice and how it operates.
mm,
You have the agency to choose like how things run.
yeah,
So you're making your own rules.
mm,
And I think that is really liberating and empowering.
yeah,
That story just reminded me of the same place.
yeah. Which
I've
was a great
definitely told this
organization.
story before, but yeah, when I had my interview, do you remember I said I had my interview? I went there dressed how I thought. I mean, I wasn't
Yeah,
dressed in a suit or anything like that, but I came as myself,
yeah,
had a blazer, some dark jeans, and I had some lipstick on.
yeah,
And I was told I need to come back, re-interview, and wear appropriate attire. And I was like, oh,
yeah,
okay. She said appropriate attire that you would wear to see a client. And I thought I would wear that.
yeah,
Some jeans, shoes, and a blazer. And so I didn't wear any lipstick and I wore like a shirt, a pinafore dress,
yeah,
tights, and shoes. And when she saw me, she was like, okay, I think that's more
yeah,
appropriate. And I just thought, wearing a suit to
yeah,
see a client, it doesn't make any
yeah,
sense. I would never wear that to see a client now.
yeah.
So I get to make my own rules.
Mm,
That wasn't me, I
mm,
wasn't showing up as who I authentically am as a therapist or
mm,
person.
yeah,
And I'm glad I don't have to do that anymore.
yeah,
The longer in the tooth that I get in this game, I'm like, come on.
yeah,
Like I'm rocking up in trainers now.
yeah, yeah,
Casual.
yeah. Oh my God, sometimes it's just like, I'm sorry, I don't know what this stain is. Um, I think it's someone's dribble. I've only just seen it in the Zoom. I haven't looked in the mirror all day. Um,
Yeah.
like we've both got kids, and it's like sometimes you turn
Yeah.
up, sit down, and you go, "Oh my God, I look
I don't
absolutely unhinged." But
then
then
you
you can
see
share that
it.
with your clients anyway.
Yeah. It's
It
so
becomes
true.
funny rather than unprofessional. It's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm turning up as human." God forbid. But
Yeah.
yeah, but you have that freedom, and it actually doesn't matter, does it? There's so many things
Yeah.
that actually don't matter if you're doing good
Yeah.
relational work. Um,
Yeah.
and you can figure that out
Yeah.
so much more easily in private practice, I would say, because you're not constrained by shoulds and musts.
Yes.
Mm.
So when we're talking about this, it doesn't feel like escaping.
No,
It
it's
doesn't feel
like
like we're
running
escaping anything.
to
It's like, yeah,
freedom.
running into empowerment and freedom and
Yeah,
choice and alignment
yeah.
into a space where it feels like I can actually be me.
What are you running away from, or what are you running to? And so maybe it is more
Yeah,
running to. Yeah.
yeah.
There's always something. There's always. I think that's the thing with any sort of therapy stuff, which we can really get stuck in. We can always psychologically analyze our reasons for doing things, and we
To
just need to
death.
like the human part of it. Paralysis by analysis. Let's just stop analyzing and just exist.
Yeah,
Private practice works really well for us, and that is enough.
yeah.
Long story short.